Tom Clark's Main Event is a Boink Studios production. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Boink Studios, and check us out on boinkstudios.com, where you can see all of our projects, past, present, and future. And now, on with the show.
This is Daddy's show. Step off.
Hey, what is up? Welcome to the program, folks. Thank you for tuning in. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tom Clark, and you are listening to Tom Clark's Main Event. This is episode number 81 of the podcast, and if you're joining us today for the very first time, we'll bid you welcome. If you're coming back for a repeat visit, we say, hey, thanks for checking back in with us. And to all those involved, we'll extend to you, as always, the customary laurel and hearty handshake. Thanks for listening. Thanks for reading. Thanks for supporting. And hey, thanks for always being there, Doc. Episode number 81. I know what you're saying. Tom, it's been a while since we've heard from you. Yes, indeed it has. So how have you been? How's things? How's the wife? How are the kids? How's the job? How's the husband? How's the boyfriend / girlfriend or / whatever you have at home? Things are okay on our end. We've been, I guess you could say, radio silent for the better part of a month now. My apologies on that. But we are going to attempt to get back on track here. This episode is a big part of it. Been a lot of wacky things happening in the world since the last time we spoke. Our country continues to go nutsy at every turn. You know, we've got American Psycho in office, and it's just, it continues to look bad for the good old U.S. of A. So to all of our listeners out there outside the United States, let me assure you, not all of us are on the same page as our esteemed leader, okay? So let's just let that be known right now. He didn't get my vote, and if God forbid somehow he manages to pull off this 4 years and run again, he won't get my next vote either. So there it is. But we're not going to get political on you. It's not what we do here on the show. For those of you who have never listened to the show, this is pro wrestling. So any of you out there who were hoping for some politics, you're going to get a little bit of it here and there. Just enough for me to vent, okay? But then I'm going to get back to the business of professional wrestling, which is what we do here. It's a large chunk of our content from Boink Studios. And the main event is a huge part of that. So, hey, thanks for listening. Glad you are with us. Let's get right down to it. Episode number 81. This time the main event is The Shield returns. You heard it right, folks. Unless you've been living under a rock for a while now, then you know that the Hounds of Justice are on the hunt once again in WWE. That's right, man. Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose are once again back together, reunited, and it feels so good. I have to say, man, it was a pretty big night. Not just for that company, but for fans, for all the fans who were tuning in and watching it all unfold before their very eyes. October 9th, 2017 will go down in WWE history as the night when the Shield came back together as a group. And it was massive. It was one of those things that I thought was going to come on pay-per-view at some point. First of all, let me tell you this. I knew it was going to happen. It was inevitable. And I knew that the timing had to be right. I don't think the timing could be any better than it was on October 9th. I think the stars came into perfect alignment. There's a lot to talk about with the members of the Shield. First and foremost, the guy at the head of the group. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's just dive right in. Roman Reigns, okay, continues to be a polarizing figure in the business, in WWE, and for fans all over the world. I'm sick of talking about it, to be honest with you. Just as I got sick of talking about John and writing about John. And just as with John, I'm so well versed on Roman's issues that I could write columns about this guy blindfolded. Tell me to give you 1,000 words or so on Roman's plight, and I could knock it out in like a half hour, man, and edit it and post it with pictures and with video. Thank you very much. That's how well versed I am. That's how how much it's become a routine for me to write about Roman and his issues. There's some wacky fans out there that believe that Roman is a heel right now. Those people need help. Roman is in no way a heel. If Roman were a heel, he would be working baby faces all the time, and we know he's not. And you could talk about John if you want to, that's fine. But, you know, for the most part, the big dog, as Michael Cole loves to call him, for the most part, Reigns targets the heels, okay? Which means he, in fact, is not a heel. So everyone just needs to calm down, get a hold of yourselves, and understand what you're seeing. You are seeing a guy who, and I can't say he's never fully gotten over his babyface, because he has. There have been moments. And actually, some of those moments really stand out. The night that he beat Sheamus on Monday Night Raw to become WWE Champion was a big moment. And he was over. And the very next week, when he talked smack to Stephanie in the middle of the ring, he was over. The crowd was into it. Man, when he beat Sheamus that night, dude, the crowd popped. And this is the same crowd that hated Roman's guts. Now, mind you, many of the issues, I should say, that have plagued Roman throughout his recent WWE main event career, it's just been bad timing. And we're not going to go through the whole plethora of problems that he's had. We're not going to do that. But WWE's refusal to look at him as anything other than their top babyface has hurt him in a lot of ways. WWE's incredibly bad timing of elevating Roman over Daniel Bryan and giving fans Reigns instead of Bryan hurt him tremendously, got him off on the wrong foot. I think we all know that and can agree on it, whether you like the guy or not. I'm talking about Roman here. But, you know, all those things aside, Roman is still there. And this is one of those weird things that I had to debate fans about when John was, you know, still the top guy and still under fire each and every week about, oh, you know, we hate Cena, Cena sucks, all this other stuff. And I would get such odd comments on columns I write about John, and I would see, sometimes I would read the occasional story on another website or read a story on Bleacher Report, whether it was written by myself or not, and scroll down to the comments section, and I would see the most asinine comments. Well, they should just fire John. They should just get rid of him because people hate him. Are you freaking kidding me right now? I got to tell you, man, as much as I am a fan of the business and as much as I have always and will always love professional wrestling, I continue to be embarrassed at times by our fan base, by the fan base. It's embarrassing at times. Do you not think so? And I often go back to the Tommy Lee Jones quote from Men in Black, and I'm paraphrasing here, where Will Smith says, "Why don't you just tell people? People are smart." And Tommy Lee Jones says, "No, a person is smart. People are irrational. They're excitable. They do the wrong thing. They make snap judgments." That's kind of the way we are as pro wrestling fans. Individually, we can be very smart. We can have intelligent debates. But you talk about us as a whole, and it's anarchy. It's chaos all the time. And I think that's the problem. That's the issue, is that people refuse to listen to reason. People refuse to understand what it is they're looking at. For everyone that said that Cena should be fired, do you not know what you're talking about? Cena was positioned as the top guy of the company, making all this money for the company and for himself. Sure, WWE was just going to pull him out and fire him because fans didn't like him. There's a lot of people out there smoking a lot of weed. I'm just saying, okay, to each his own, but my God in heaven. Come at this thing with a clear head. It's the same thing with Roman. I have been on the record as saying many times in the past, this is not working. I'm not going to vary from that. Now understand this, man. The opinion I gave you 2 years ago may not be the opinion I have today. It's not because I flounder. It's not because I go back on my word or go back on what I say. But the fact of the matter is, my opinions can evolve over time. That's what a good writer does, who writes about the business. Okay, if you have one opinion, you've stuck to it for years in an ever-changing environment, it can be either a positive or a negative. So I don't always stick to everything I've ever said throughout the course of my professional writing career, because I can change my mind. I can, my views can evolve or de-evolve, I suppose the case may be. But that's me. That's how I roll. And sometimes I'm open-minded, sure. Sometimes I'm not, absolutely. But you have to understand again, what we're talking about here, yes, I've said that it's never going to work with Roman, and I stick to that. I'm never going to not stick to that. I think that they have found lightning in a bottle again with this whole Shield thing, and I think it's in large part thanks to John Cena. When John Cena did the job to Roman Reigns, everything changed. Okay? And I'm being straight with you. Everything changed. And I didn't think it would. Going into that match, I didn't think anyone was going to care, if I'm being honest with you. I didn't think anyone was going to care. But the fact is they did. And not only did they care, but they cared a lot the next night on Raw. Okay? But, again, I didn't see it happening. I felt like people didn't care about the match. I didn't care about the match at all, if I'm being straight with you, man. I didn't care about it at all, okay, to be honest with you. But No Mercy came, and John took on Roman, and leading up, the weeks leading up to the match itself, I mean, and John's always had this problem. What do you do with the guy that's supposed to be the top babyface but can't get the majority? I'm talking about the majority of the crowd, not 2/3. I mean, you need bigger than that, in my opinion. The majority of the crowd, if not all the crowd on your side, what do? Well, it's simple. You just have the guy cut promos because he's a good talker. And that talks people in, whether they like him or not. John Cena's coming to the ring, getting booed out of the building, and by the time he gets done cutting his promo, they're cheering him. Because John can, just as Rock can hold them in his hand, John can do the same thing as well. And it goes back to their feud, okay? How did they make people care about it? How did they make people care about it at all? Despite the fact it was The Rock versus John Cena, they talked him into the building, okay? Which is what they attempted to do here. And, truth, fact time, okay? I'm not going to bag on Roman for his lack of good promo skills or whatever, but I will tell you this, in all due fairness, Roman Reigns cursed like a sailor, okay? Because evidently that's all he could do. And you would like to think that these guys, John not so much, the veterans don't need it, okay? Roman's eventually going to be a veteran, but you always have to wonder, will Roman be able to get to the point where they can just hand him a microphone and give him 3 bullet points and say, okay, go out there, say your piece, get your bullet points hit, and then get out. I don't know if he can. Do you know what I'm saying? Jericho can get on the mic, man. He can tell a story. Dusty Rhodes, the great immortal Dusty Rhodes, could tell a story. Roddy Piper could tell a story. CM Punk could tell a story. I don't think Roman Reigns is a storyteller. Not in the ring or on the mic. And that's just my opinion. Not going to bag on Roman in the ring either. Roman's ring skills are much better than his mic skills. And there was a time when you couldn't say that. You could say they were both really, really rough. But I don't think you can say that now. Roman's put his time in, so everyone ease up. But I wasn't looking forward to this, okay? And the way they made people care about it was the promos. That's how they got people in. That's how they got people not only writing about it, but reading about it and finally tuning in to see it. A funny thing happened at No Mercy. Roman won. You guys knew he was going to win, right? None of you out there really thought John was going to win, did you? Because it wasn't going to happen, obviously. But Roman wins, and John raises his hand because John's the good guy, and he's the stand-up guy, right? And he raises Roman's hand as if to say, "Hey, better man won," and the crowd booed. Well, of course they booed. But a funny thing happened the next night on Raw, and as my chair pops and creaks, I'm going to set up a Patreon site to get myself a new chair for the studio. You guys contribute, man. I can feel the love swarming in, so that's going to be awesome. Groundswell of support for yours truly in Boink Studios. Where was I going with this? Oh, yeah, that's right, the match. So the match happens, and the very next night on Raw, WWE starts talking about, did John just pass the torch? Is he done? Is he gone? What's going on? And yes, this was sort of a passing of the torch kind of situation. I don't know if this was Hogan and Andre. Let's just be straight with that right now as my chair continues to creak. I don't know if it was a total passing of the torch here. Let's just be honest. But I think it was enough that the company could take it, roll with it, advertise it, talk about it, maybe subliminally put it into your head. Easy for me to say. And do all of these things to kind of, put forth the idea, at least, that John Cena had indeed done something, magnificent at No Mercy. And guess what? This is the kicker. You're going to love this. This is good stuff. It worked. Okay. Now, I'm not saying Roman Reigns became the top face overnight, because he did not. But I will say this. When Roman was in the ring and he was being interviewed by Miz, this, that, and the other, he was over. The crowd was cheering. I think it worked. I think the whole thing worked. And I'll do you one better. I think it was probably the best thing they could have done for Roman in a long time. And putting him back with the Shield was the second best thing they could have done for Roman Reigns, because I think it worked. And I was one of the guys saying that he should turn heel. I still think a heel turn's coming eventually, because WWE's been down this road before where they refused to turn John heel and they just waited it out until John's done now. I don't think that's the answer for Roman, and I don't think I'll ever believe that's the answer for Roman. But I will say this. The guy's found new life. And there's always going to be a contingent of fans that are going to boo him regardless of who he's running with. I get that. But it's working for him right now. If we can just be honest about the whole thing, it's working for him. And he's getting over. And Dean and Seth were already over. They got back together first. I still take issue, if I'm being honest, with the fact of Seth Rollins betrayed them, stabbed them in the back in 2014, and left them for dead, and sold his soul to Triple H for 10 pounds of gold, as it were. I wrote that. I'm really proud of that one, too. I can be honest with you. I wrote that a few times. I'm just saying. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. But, he's since made a turnaround. He's come back. Oh, everyone liked me again because I'm babyface, and it's fine. So he and Dean get over first, despite their troubled past. And now Roman is back with them as well. They all have common enemies. The Miz, Braun Strowman, the Miztourage, The Bar, Cesaro and Sheamus, who I absolutely love. If you're not a fan of The Bar, you're not a fan of wrestling, okay? Not only are Cesaro and Sheamus very, very good together, but they're a very, very fine tag team, okay? And they gelled. They work extremely well together. They've got the look. Everything they do is in tune with each other. And it will be a sad day when that team breaks up, because they will. Because WWE will not be able to resist breaking them up eventually. And then they'll try to push Sheamus back on you as a top heel, and you're not going to care about him, and it's blah, 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 blah. And I dread that. I dread that day coming, because they've never looked better than they do right now together. And they're, like I said, they're a very fine tag team. I enjoy watching them work. So the newly revamped Shield, or newly reformed Shield, maybe I should say, has their share of enemies. Some old enemies, some new enemies, okay? But Roman Reigns, part of it, again, I think the timing could not have been better for Roman. I think that it worked out tremendously well for him. And I don't know if it was just a lucky accident or if it was all really orchestrated from the very beginning to get him to this point right now. I'm not sure. But I will tell you that I think that this is going to get over like gangbusters, and we've already seen the very first stages of that. So I want them to keep it up. I'm happy with this. I think it's great because, sometimes you just got to give the fans what they want. And they didn't know they wanted Roman, but they wanted Roman back with the Shield. So you know what's happening here, right? You got to believe that WWE is hoping there will be such a groundswell of popularity for Roman, such a groundswell of support, and people change their minds about him, that when the time comes to split the Shield up again, that it will be one of those, okay, we really like Roman now. Now, I'll put it this way. Timing's everything, as we said before. Putting the right people in the right places, moving the chess pieces around the board, that's what makes all the difference in the world. You can't bring Roman out of this thing when it's time to put him against a weak heel. You need to bring him out against a despicable heel that no one wants to see win. Okay? Not a popular heel. Not Owens. Not Miz. Not even Strowman. Popular heels. Okay? You need to put him against a despicable heel that no one wants to see win. So again, the booking is critical. As is everything that happens in the business, my friends. The booking makes all the difference in the world. If the booking is not on point, that he will not get over. He will not stay over, and he will go right back to the failed experiment that is known as Roman Reigns. I'm just saying. So let's talk a little bit about his cohorts in the Shield, his two brothers in arms. First, let's go to Seth Rollins. Like we said before, Seth is sort of, he made his apology tour to Ambrose, to the fans, to his peers on TV, that kind of thing. Hey, man, I'm sorry I went crazy. I'm sorry that you guys couldn't recognize me, but now I'm back, and I'm on your side. You can trust me. But Seth Rollins is such a good heel, isn't he? Smarmy, overconfident, outspoken, braggadocious. I mean, just everything you'd want from a top heel is Seth Rollins. That's who he is, and he's extremely good at what he does. But I get where they're going with this. I'm okay with it. I think I can live with this just fine. So Seth being in this position makes a lot of sense. I still hate the thing on his music. Burn it down. I'm not going to do it. You guys know how it goes. I know everyone rips on that, but it's silly. I think sometimes there's a point when the entrance music needs to be really looked at. Like Shinsuke Nakamura's entrance music is just absolutely perfect for him. Some guys get it perfect, and it just absolutely works 100%. But it's not really working for Seth, and maybe they'll tweak it. If they don't, who cares? Because now he's using Roman's theme, which is the Shield's theme, which has always been the Shield's theme from day one. So, with any luck, something will change with his entrance music at some point. But all that aside, Seth is a great hand. He has become the workhorse of WWE, and especially Monday Night Raw. He's on top for a reason. So is Roman, and so is Ambrose. And, the entire concept of the Shield in the very beginning, the Shield were put together to disband, okay? Because the plan was that these three guys were going to sort of be given the keys to the kingdom, and they were. So in one fell swoop, WWE created three brand new stars, three top guys in one huge storyline. How many times has that ever worked? How many times has that ever worked? How many top new top stars came out of the NWO? Go ahead, talk amongst yourselves while you count up to 0. Because the NWO was comprised of veterans and of faces and people that you never heard of or maybe didn't care about. And you didn't care about them when it was over either. The NWO didn't create anyone. They didn't create anyone. No new stars. Nobody came out of that group. And that to me is a clear indication that company didn't have the slightest clue what they were doing when they formed the NWO. You want to be able to form stables, factions, groups, whatever you want to call them, with express intent of creating new stars, new top guys, new main eventers. I'm not talking about guys at a Ric Flair level. I'm not saying that. But guys who could aspire to be there, who have the potential to be great. Maybe not legendary. Who knows? But the potential to be great. And when you have factions that do not perform that task, when you have factions that cannot or will not or were not built to do that, it is by definition an unsuccessful faction. So you have to say, for this reason alone, that the Shield was the single most important and single most successful faction in the history of the business. And you can say the Horsemen, for their time, absolutely. The Horsemen created stars that the wrestling world will be talking about 50 years from now, okay? Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, Barry Windham, Ole Anderson. And that's the truth. I mean, Ole was already firmly established. Rick was established as the man. Tully was established as a fine wrestler. So was Arn. But they all, and again, you got to catch lightning in a bottle. That's how the business works, right? If you want to get over, everything has to be working in perfect conjunction for it to happen. It's a little bit of planning and a little bit of luck. And sometimes the scales can tip either way, okay? But the Horsemen came along at the perfect time for all four guys, and it got over, and it worked, and it was legendary, and it's successful and never be forgotten, okay? So you would have to say the Horsemen is number one, but the Shield would have to be number two in terms of creating stars and building for the future, which is what WWE did. And now these three guys are back together, and Seth Rollins is a huge part of that. I think that if Seth's solo career did not work, if he didn't embrace it, if he didn't grab it, grab by the horns and never let go, and it didn't make the best of it every single time he was on camera and every single time a mic was in his hand, then you may not be seeing the reformation of the Shield right now. And if you did, maybe you wouldn't care about it because it would feel like just a gimmick. But it's not a gimmick because these three guys could have stayed independent of each other and been just fine. They were just fine, right? I don't remember anyone saying, God, jeez, why don't they just put these three guys back together? Maybe they did in the beginning, but you know what? It's all three guys have proven that they don't need each other in order to survive, and I think that's very important. They can stand on their own 2 feet. Now, I know what you're saying, Tom. That sounds great, Roman and Seth, yeehaw. But what about Dean? Okay, let's talk about Dean. Dean Ambrose, you would have to say, is the weakest of the three in terms of what they've done with him. Now, he was WWE champion, okay? But Dean has had some chinks in the armor. The Stone Cold podcast didn't do him any favors. I still believe that a lot of people are hanging on to the things he said during that show where Steve was like, come on, man, fire up. And Dean just sits there and looks at him. I think that was bad. I think that the way that thing was, it was edited together by some nut job online who tried to make Dean look like an idiot. But if you just watch the podcast itself on WWE Network, you can see straight up that it didn't need much editing. Dean looked very weak, and it was very hard to watch. There's been a couple of other things that have happened. The night that Dean was in the ring with Brock and Paul Heyman, you have to look this up. I can't tell you when it happened, of course, but it was before the WrestleMania match that year. But Dean came to the ring and he said, am I afraid of you? Yeah, I'm afraid of you. Of course I'm afraid of you. Everybody's afraid of you. And I thought, wait a minute, what? Aren't you the guy that's crazy, that has no fear? You're like Daredevil on acid. Like, you have no fear. You're out of your mind. You should be in a padded room. And it's funny because later on when they replayed that moment on their YouTube channel, they edited that bit out where Dean's saying that he's afraid of him. Well, of course they did, because that's lame. You don't want one of your top protagonists to have a fear of the guy he's getting ready to work. You don't want that, right? I mean, obviously you don't want that. That was a terrible idea. And I don't know who would coach him to say that, if it was his choice or whatever, but wow. Hit and a miss. Swing and a miss. Excuse me. Swing and a miss, baby. That's what that was. So, yeah, hard to watch. Again, Dean's had moments of where you feel like he's all there, and then other moments you feel like he didn't really care about this match at all. So he ended up being the weakest of the three, which is very surprising. Because when the Shield were riding high, you kind of felt like Dean could be the guy that breaks out. Do you know what I'm saying? That's kind of how it felt to me, that Dean could be the guy that breaks out. Dean could have potentially the bigger career of the three of them. But you know what? It didn't take long after the Shield called it quits in the beginning. It didn't take long for you to see that was not going to be the case. Again, Dean had his moments, but for the most part, people were looking at him saying, eh. Now, Dean continues to get a great pop. An even better pop with Seth, and now that the three of them are back together, it's Katie bar the doors. When can I buy my ticket to go see these guys live? Okay. I think that this is a great idea. I think this is working on every level. I think, again, the timing couldn't be better. The Shield back together in 2017 after 3 years of absence of being a group is a very big deal, and I'm all for it. So, as we're talking about these three guys, your next question to me is, okay, Tom, you've covered all three of them. So, what happens now? Well, what's happening soon, on October 22nd, of course, is Raw's next big thing, okay? And what's going to happen at this pay-per-view is, and it's TLC, by the way, thank you very much. But what's going to happen at TLC is that the Shield's going to be taking on Strowman, The Miz, and The Bar in a 4-on-3 handicap TLC match. The Shield's going over. You guys know that. It's going to be fun. You guys know that too. It's going to be hard fought. It'll be the match of the night. And in my opinion, it will probably become a match of the year candidate. I'm just saying. I think it's going to be that good because you've got a lot of combustible elements in that ring. You got a lot of good hands that can do a lot of good work and make people remember. I mean, Seth and Dean have already had match of the year candidates with Cesaro and Sheamus. I see no reason why this will not be one of them. I think it's going to happen for sure. So what happens after that? Okay. If it were Tom calling the shots, I would let them ride this Shield thing out for as long as possible. I've been saying for a long time that I have two different ideas for WrestleMania 34. I believe for a long time it's going to be Roman versus Brock for the Universal title, and Roman pins him clean. And Roman kicks out of an F5 to pin Brock clean. I believe that's going to happen. Option number 2 is an all-Shield main event, where it's a triple threat for the Universal Championship. And I think that could be, I know that could work just as well and draw some money and draw people to the show and to watch it on pay-per-view. And I believe that. And I think that either match would be top-notch, and it would work, and it would serve the purpose for everybody involved, okay? I don't know where they're going to go with it now, but I will say this. The Shield should be together for as long as possible. When the time comes to break them up, maybe breaking them up because of heel turns is not the right way to go this time. They've been there, done that. I think, in my opinion, the Shield should become like DX in terms of, they just kind of stop. They don't really stop for any good reason. They just kind of stop. You could bring out Shawn Michaels and Triple H right now on TV. Anywhere in the world. Forget TV. Make it a house show. Anywhere in the world. Wearing the green and black, the leather jacket, the crotch chopping and all that stuff. You could do that right now. It would get over in any country on earth. I'm no kidding. Where WWE runs, they would get over anywhere. And they'd call themselves DX and Are You Ready? No, I said, Are You Ready? And it'd be great. And because you can play that hand whenever you want to, and it's always going to work. To me, that's what we're talking about with the Shield. You can run these guys starting in October right now as we speak to December, to January, to October of next year. You can put it into it whenever you want. And instead of it being a lot of heel turns, a lot of hurt feelings, a lot of anger and hatred, it can be nothing else except, look, man, I think we got one more big one in us for a while. Let's make it this match. And then at the end of the match, they get the win. They all three bump fists and they call it a night on the Shield for a while. And then it's 6 months or a year. It's 6 months or a year before you see them back together again, working together as a cohesive unit. I don't think there's anywhere else you can go with that. I think that's the way to go. Then if you want to turn guys heel after the fact, that's fine. But leave it alone. Do you know what I'm saying? Consider it like Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. I'm going to date myself here. They make albums whenever the four of them can work together. Do you see what I'm saying? To me, that's how I look at it. That's how I think it should be viewed now. These guys get together when they can all get together in the same place at the same time to cut an album and maybe have a little tour. This is their second album, by the way. This is going to be a good album. It is, man. Just saying. But if Tom were calling the shots, that's what I would say. So, yeah, that's my deal. Now, I think when you have one of the most, and I called it earlier, the most successful faction and one of the most popular factions of all time, to be honest with each other on that one. But when you have that, the temptation to keep this thing forever for a good long time is going to be immense. It's going to be amazing. And I don't think WWE will be able to resist that temptation. I think they'll keep the Shield together for a long time. But I also believe, in my opinion, I would dare say there are conversations being had behind the scenes where Hunter or someone else is saying, look, let's do this, let's run this till this time, and let's split them up because we don't want to hurt Roman. Now, I don't know why in the world anybody would believe that this could hurt Roman. This could do nothing but help him in the long run, hopefully, for them, right? But I think they would look at it as Roman would start being viewed again as nothing more than a team player when he is our top guy. I don't think anybody, in my estimation, doesn't understand that Roman Reigns is their top guy. My God, they've done everything but having pinned Jesus, on a cloud or something. I'm just saying, they've done everything but that at this point to convince you. The next thing, what's he got left to do? Cure cancer. Beat Brock Lesnar and cure cancer, pin Jesus on a cloud. To convince you that, man, this guy's amazing. He can do it all. Right? Which gets to be a little nauseating, I should say. But again, they did the same thing with John. You can make the comparisons all day long between John and Roman, and 99.9% of it is the company's fault, not your fault, not the fans' fault. So everyone shut up and stop blaming each other. Blame the company. 99.9%. The other 0.01% is your fault because you just want to hate people because it's fun to hate people. So it's whatever. See, I didn't put a lot of blame at your door, just some. Just a teensy bit, man. That's all. So that's the Shield. And again, I'm for this. I think this is going to work. I think that it's got potential. It's going to be the story. It's going to be the storyline of the year, no doubt about it. 2017 is going to end with the Shield, even though it came very late in the year, in the 10th month. I think that it will be the biggest story of the year, and it could be the biggest story of 2018 as well. It could run this for a year, for all we know. It keeps Roman away from Brock for a while. It keeps Strowman preoccupied with the Shield instead of Brock. Samoa Joe's not around, but man, when Joe comes back, can you imagine that match? That match would be fun, right? Throw Joe in the mix for some 6-man tags and whatnot. And the best thing about this is that when WWE goes on the road, like I said, 6-man tags. You can put any 3 guys together. You can have real fun with this. You can make 8-man tags, 10-man tags, whatever you want to do. And it would work. It would totally work. And this thing is going to it's over already. Let's just be honest. But this thing has potential to be the biggest thing on the planet ever because of how much the fans wanted this and wanted to see it happen again. You didn't think you wanted Roman back with the guys, did you? But when you saw it, you're like, okay, that's kind of cool. I mean, I was the guy saying Seth and Dean together, yay, it's fun, nostalgia. Keep Roman away from them. You're going to kill them. He'll kill them. He'll kill them, man. That's what I believed, and I stuck to it for a long time. But, dude, when I saw the 3 guys together on Raw, I'm like, okay, I was wrong. This is cool. So, that made the crowd pop. I was talking to a friend of mine that night, and it's like, yeah, man, this is good stuff. This is totally working. I'm excited. I'm amped up. So, yeah, it works. It works on every level. And, again, WWE capitalizing, striking while the iron is hot, and they're going to do a lot of good things with this. And I think it's going to run for a good long while, as it should. So, that's what I got for you on the Shield. There's going to be more to come, I'm sure. Before we go, and I know you're checking the time. Geez, Tom, you're done talking? I'm never done talking. Let's be honest. But I wanted to touch base on a couple other things here that's been happening in that company and other places in the wrestling world. Let's talk a little bit about Enzo Amore finding a second life on 205 Live. This has been one of the coolest things, one of the best things they've ever done for him, besides putting him with Big Cass or letting him roll with Big Cass on the main roster on Raw. Because this really does breathe new life into Enzo's career. Let's just be honest. And it's funny. I recently did a slideshow about TLC, and I, covered the Enzo Amore versus Kalisto Cruiserweight Championship match, and I said, Enzo started off red hot with Big Cass, then he cooled down. Big Cass dumped him, and now he's red hot again, maybe hotter than he's ever been in his entire career. And it's true. And all he had to do was come out with bad-mouth cruiserweights. He said what a lot of people were already thinking. 205 Live, first of all, the Cruiserweight Classic was a fine idea. And it was good. It was exciting. It was fun to watch. Absolutely fun to watch. If you've never watched it, do yourself a favor. Go to WWE Network and watch it. It's so good. Every ounce of it is just so good, okay? Cruiserweight Classic is top-notch, man. Totally all the way. But it did not translate to the main roster. When they said the Cruiserweights are coming, they're going to get their own show and this, that, and the other, it just didn't work. And which is a shame because they've got some really, really good talent. But the characters are not working. The characterization of these guys is not being handled in the proper way. You have to look at like Jack Gallagher. Jack Gallagher's heel now. Yeah. Neville supposedly has asked for his release. Whether or not that's true at this moment in time, I couldn't tell you. But he's going to be gone. Supposedly gone, whatever. But Jack Gallagher's heel. What? Jack Gallagher's entire gimmick is babyface. I don't care what anyone says. absolute babyface. But he's heel now, just like T.J. Perkins did. That's lame. It's so lame. It's dumb. How lame is it? It's so lame. It's dumb. Do you know what I mean? That's bottom line. It's just not. It's not working. I think it was a bad move. I mean, Jack Gallagher had no business turning heel. So I don't know that they understand who these guys are. And if they don't know, then how's any fan supposed to know? Therein lays the problem with 205 Live. If you don't know what's going on and you don't care, they don't know, they don't care, then the whole thing is doomed to fail from the beginning, which I believe it really is. But I will tell you this, Enzo Amore has indeed breathed new life into that division, into that show. So hopefully he'll stay on it. And we'll see where it goes from here. He does have a rematch with Kalisto for the Cruiserweight Championship at TLC. We'll see what happens there. What else has been happening lately? Well, Shane McMahon, yikes, once again came off the Hell in a Cell. I've been on the record as talking about my problems with Shane McMahon constantly being in the ring. And my spiel was kind of stolen by Kevin Owens, who said, "Why do you always have to be in the spotlight?" Well, he's right. It was all just storyline, I get it, but he was totally right. I've been saying it for years. You don't need Shane to be throwing his body on the line every minute of every day. He came off the top of the cell once again, and it did not need to happen. It just did not need to happen, guys. I will say this, and I was thinking about this the other day, driving actually, of all times to be thinking about it. Is this going to diminish Foley's dive off the cell against Undertaker? But then I started thinking about the home run record. Okay, you know about McGuire, you know about Sosa, you know about the steroids, you know about the steroid era. These guys were bigger than Batista, I think, at the time. Seemed like they were anyway. So imagine Batista out there, huge with this tiny little bat in his hands, crushing balls. But who do you remember for the home run record? Have you forgotten Hank Aaron? No one's forgotten Hank Aaron, okay? I think that's what we're thinking about here. Shane's come off the top of that cell twice. The only other person to do that from the very top was Mick Foley, okay? And Foley is Hank Aaron in this situation. He really is. No one's going to forget what Foley did. No one's going to forget the match that Foley and Taker had that night. No one's going to forget any of it, and they shouldn't, as they should. I mean, it's amazing stuff. It was such an exciting night, and death-defying, and dangerous, and crazy, crazy dangerous, and could have ended not only Mick Foley's career but his life. And after that happened, they never should have revisited it. But here comes Shane McMahon off the top of the cell, not once but twice, because he's just, I don't know what the deal is. I mean, you have to wonder if he keeps volunteering to do this, or if someone just keeps mentioning this to him. Hey, Shane, you want to jump off the cell again, brother? I mean, I don't know. You don't need to do this. You see that big, gigantic announce table he landed on was like padded and stuff, and it was massive. It was like a refrigerator laid on its side or something in terms of how big it was. But dude, it obviously padded. That's fine. Protect the guy. Hey, I got a better idea on how to protect him. Don't have him come off the cell because it's lame. Okay? It never should have happened, my man. Again, you're putting a guy who is, okay, Shane's been trained. Shane's been in the ring. I get it as my chair continues to creak. Shane's been in the ring. He's a pro. I understand. Guys love him because he'll risk his life. Guys love him because he wants to make the match look good. Guys love him because he takes more bumps and better bumps than some of the boys do. Understood. Got it. Why are you doing it? Why do you need to do it? Why do you feel the need to do it? You've got a locker room full of guys and gals who would love to have that time on TV. And this is not one of those deals where I'm saying, well, Shane's stealing time from other talents. I'm not saying that. Because if there were guys and gals truly stepping up to grab it by the throat, they wouldn't need to put Shane on TV. Don't you believe that? I don't know what I believe about it now, to be honest with you. Because, and you're in trouble when the sing-song voice comes out, right? But I don't know how I feel about it now. Because, part of me thinks, well, they'll just book Shane no matter what happens, right? Which is what they're doing, in my estimation. So, memo to Shane McMahon, quit coming off the top of that freaking cell. Enough's enough. Don't do it anymore. You know what I mean? Again, Mick Foley's Hank Aaron. I get it. But you're lessening the impact of the initial dive, and I just don't do it anymore. Don't do it anymore. We all know you're basically jumping onto an airbag at this point. Just stop. You know what I mean? Stop making it stunt wrestling. Speaking of stunt wrestling, let's talk about Sami Zayn, okay? I went on a rant the other day to a friend of mine, about Sami Zayn being nothing but a stunt wrestler. This person wasn't very happy about that because they're a fan of Zayn. I'm like, you know what? He's a stunt wrestler. Because he is, man. I see a lot of people on Twitter and stuff. Sami deserves better. He deserves more. I don't know why I'm sounding like Dr. Evil. Apparently Dr. Evil is a fan of Sami Zayn. Give him more. Give him $1 million. That was dumb. So, it's late, man, what can I tell you? But, I see that. I see those people talking about he deserves more. No, he doesn't. Just because he's put his time in, just because he's paid his dues, and he has paid his dues, doesn't mean he deserves anything. Talking about he deserves a shot. He's had shots. He's been on TV. He gets over to a certain point that he can't get over anymore. He's won matches. They don't mean anything anymore. The guy's first night back from being out for, 8 months with his shoulder, comes back and he's diving over the ropes again. Why, Sammy? Why? I'm going to take a sign next Raw I go to. SmackDown, I should say. Why, Sammy? Why? Because it's lame, that's why. Because once again, another WWE superstar believes he has to go pull dangerous stunts in order to get over. You don't need to, dude. You never have. If you're as good as you say you are, and if you're as good as everyone seems to think you are, then you don't need to do all that garbage. Stop doing it. He doesn't have the body for it. No, to begin with, he doesn't have the body for the high-risk wrestling. He's too tall, he's too lanky, he's too awkward looking in the ring. And this is no disrespect to him. I respect any of the guys and gals that get in that ring, put their lives on the line to entertain us. Just as I respect Sami, I do. What I don't respect is the fact that I believe he's a careless worker. I believe he puts, not the guys he works. I think he protects the guys he works. He puts himself in danger needlessly just to pop the crowd. Let me tell you something about that crowd. That crowd turn on you in a heartbeat. You shouldn't be caring about whether or not you can make the crowd pop on a particular night. Whether you're in, the Garden or you're in Sheboygan. It shouldn't matter to you. Just go out and do your job, man. If you're a heel, then make them hate you, not cheer you. If you're a baby face, get out there and win their hearts and minds. Don't make them look at you and say, why are they doing all this stupid Daredevil stuff all of a sudden? You don't need to do it. That's my point to you, man. It's not necessary. So Sami has turned heel, I guess, right? Where he came out, blamed the fans because he turned heel and helped Kevin. I'm very disappointed in this. This didn't need to happen. It could have been a better explanation, a better set of reasoning that would have still made sense to Sami as a heel, and the rest of us could have went, oh, I get it now. There wasn't an aha moment for me. Was there for you? If you say yes, you're lying, okay? Because there wasn't. It was a typical, what have you done for me lately? Well, Jesus, that's all you got, man? Horrendous stuff. I'm just saying. But that's what they've fed to us, and that's what we're sitting here trying to chew on, and we're all getting sick off the taste of it. But it is what it is. But that's the big story on SmackDown, and it doesn't even involve the championship. Speaking of championship, Jinder Mahal beat Shinsuke Nakamura again. It's a bit silly now. Nakamura had so much potential and still does. But nothing good's going to happen for him as long as he continues to get booked this way. And speaking of Nakamura, we're going to switch gears here before we sign off. I got a little bit to say about New Japan. If you've been watching New Japan lately, Tetsuya Naito is the guy that's going to face Kazuchika Okada, Wrestle Kingdom in January. It's going to be good. The matches they've had so far have been top-notch. Okada's the best worker in the world. I know that not because Pro Wrestling Illustrated said so, but because it's a fact. Okada's the man, okay? He's my absolute favorite talent in the business. My favorite to watch. People often ask me, there's something about being a pro wrestling writer. You get asked the typical questions, who's your favorite wrestler? And I'm like, I don't know that I always say the same thing. I don't know if I have a favorite wrestler. Like I have a lot of respect for certain guys more than others for what they can do and what they have done, what they've sacrificed for the business and what they mean to me personally, Dusty chief among them, right? But, as far as who's your favorite wrestler, If I was pressed, I would say Okada because he's killing it, because he cares so much about his craft. Do you know what I mean? And he's in an environment that they don't promo you to death. Mic time every 2 seconds, makes you crazy, makes you want to go, bash your head into the wall or something. They don't work for WWE. That's what I'm trying to say. Did you get that? All right, you got it. But Okada's the man, and I'm looking forward to that match. But New Japan's killing it right now. I've had issues with New Japan. You guys know this. The Bullet Club can no longer do the too sweet. They're now just putting up one finger, the index finger, to each other. I guess they got to have a way to make physical contact because it means something to them because they're a club. And they just hang out and stuff. Well, I said before that the NWA didn't create any new stars. The Bullet Club has created new stars. Well, to a certain extent. I guess you could say the Bullet Club created Omega, but Omega was already on his way, right? The Young Bucks were already a known commodity. AJ was a known commodity, of course. You can perhaps say that Finn was a known commodity in the independent circuit, but not to the world at large until he joined Balor Club. And see there, too many clubs, man. It's going to be Conja Club next. I was thinking about that the other day from Episode 7, Star Wars. I don't even know where that came from, but what a lousy name. There's moments, by the way, in that movie that make me shudder just a little bit. And I love that movie, too. I'm just saying. But, yeah, man, it's just, I don't know. Let's just put it to you this way. There's a lot of stuff going on, SmackDown and Raw. There's things that make you shake your head and say, what? But at the end of the day, this is a pro wrestling company that's trying to not only win your attention, but keep your attention for the long haul. Sometimes you're going to like what they do, other times you don't. Same with New Japan. Sometimes you're going to like what they do, sometimes you don't. I'm the same. I really enjoy New Japan. Beside Bullet Club and I don't dislike Bullet Club, but I have mixed feelings on the entire concept of it, if I'm being honest with you. But I'm going a roundabout way to say this. Enjoy the product. Enjoy the business. Try to take something positive out of it. If you watch TNA, I mean, God bless you, I don't know why, but if you're watching and it's boring you to tears, try to take something out of it. Try to find something you enjoyed and stick with it. You see what I'm saying? And watch it again the next week. If you are a fan of Lucha Underground, same advice. Ring of Honor, New Japan, WWE. The show as a whole, you can say, well, I give this show a C-, or whatever you're doing, -5 stars, whatever morons doing that crap. But if you want to do that stuff, that's fine. But again, look for what works for you. What is it you enjoyed about the show? Was there anything that you got out of it? Anything that you can come away with and say, dude, that was fun to watch. It was well wrestled. There was a great promo. There was a great heel turn, whatever it was. Because it's never going to be enough to make you happy all the time. Because pro wrestling, unfortunately, is not built that way anymore, to be honest with you. Because it's no longer about good versus evil. It should be, but it's not. Because now, in my opinion, pro wrestling companies talk down to us more than they ever have before. Even back when it was a work and none of us were in on the secret, none of us knew what was really going on. We weren't in on it, okay? I think they talk down to us more now than they did during that era, during the territory days. That's the truth. Because now they have to keep reminding me it's not real at every turn. You don't need to keep doing that. Stop, man. No, there's no point in that, and I don't need you to do that anymore. That's just me talking. So, speaking of me talking, I'm going to stop talking. I'm tired. We're going to take it home, man. This has been episode number 81 of the show. This has been The Shield Returns, and Boink Studios has returned full force. We're going to be back with some more main events, some 30-minute fun shows. Kyle and I are going to get back on track very soon. In the meantime, you want to check out my content, all my pro wrestling content. There's one easy place to go for all your WWE pro wrestling needs and more. Pop culture, music, movies, you name it, we got it. BoinkStudios.com. That website again is BoinkStudios.com. Go check it out. You'll find the links to Bleacher Report, Camel Clutch, and everything else you could possibly imagine. The links to the 30-minute fun show, to the comedy action hour, and of course to the program you're currently listening to right now. That's it for us, man. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to visit Boink Studios. Have I not told you that already? For God's sakes, make it happen. and come back again. Tell your friends that you listen to a cool podcast hosted by a dude that's equally as cool. That's me. That's my story. That's it. And I'm not going to sway from it. So there you go. Thanks again, man. We appreciate your business. We will see you next time on Tom Clark's Main Event.